Today, the third episode of the Halo TV show was aired, and I have to say, another solid episode. Although I would still rank the first episode as my overall favourite out of the three so far. Anyway, as usual, as a part of this video, we'll be giving my no spoiler review at the very start of the episode, with the second part of the video being my full spoiler breakdown. So if you guys have watched the episode, let me know what you think down below, leave a like, and if you guys enjoy these videos, why not subscribe? It's completely free. But let's get into it. So, overall thoughts on the show itself. Episode 3 was actually really good. For me, there's a way of thinking about this and there's a way of going into this series. If you go into watching this Halo series thinking that it's going to be exactly like the games, you won't like it at all, and I believe that's the consensus that a lot of the community have when going in watching this. But if you go into it with a complete open mind and not expecting it to be like the games, like me, you'll probably be pleasantly surprised with the direction that the story is actually heading in. Now, it gives us an idea of how the Human Covenant antagonist came to be a part of the Covenant at the beginning of the episode. It gives a bit of her backstory as well, which I thought was kind of cool. We get more character building as well with the Master Chief, Makee, who is the name of the antagonist from the Covenant, and just their overall motivations throughout the series and the episodes, which is now becoming a lot clearer now we're on the third episode, and it's getting pretty exciting to say the least. Again, very similar to the second episode, very little action happened in the third episode, so there was no full battles between the Covenant and the humans or anything along those lines. However, there was one part of combat, and it was actually the scene that we get to see in the trailers where the Lekgolo are attacking the members of the UNSC. This scene, by the way, was so sick in the episode, and it really gives you an insight into how the Covenant actually follow Makee and the power that she has. Like, she can control everything. She is a blessed one, as they call her, and yeah, a lot of the Covenant look up to her a lot. Now, the one thing that I've accepted when watching this series is that it's nothing like the game, and it literally doesn't try to be anything like it either. This is a show that uses the Halo name, allowing it to use the characters like Chief, Halsey, the Covenant, etc. to expand on it and make a whole new storyline in its own timeline, as you will. As you know, it's a silver timeline. And for me, the show does a great job at doing that. And to be honest, I'm actually really liking the change of direction that the story's heading in. I think the director and the team that produced this TV series are damned if they do and damned if they don't. Halo is such a well-renowned franchise that any change to the canon which doesn't necessarily make sense, even if it is in a silver timeline, is going to get criticized. And that's exactly what happens in this TV series as a whole. A lot of the community are not best pleased with the way the direction that it's going, and it doesn't feel like Halo, but it's not really Halo in a sense. It is, but it's kind of not. It's like a side piece of Halo, if that makes sense. But nevertheless, I'm enjoying the change and I do really like it. Now, the way the story is going, the details behind the characters' backstories are being fleshed out, and I really like them. The Flood were even mentioned in the episode 2 in some capacity. Might the next episode be the one where we see them? I really hope so, but I was very surprised when they mentioned the Flood, and I would love for them to come back in the series and just to be able to show you what the Flood look like with CGI. I think that would be so cool. Not to mention either, this story is far from anything we've ever had in the games. The story is taking things from the canon lore and spinning them into a way to make them more interesting for a TV perspective, to show the Chief as a human killing machine, but then also releasing more of his personal side later on in the episode. His relationship with the likes of Cortana and Halsey, and other characters like Silver Team and even Captain Keyes. Really, the lack of combat doesn't really bother me too much, just because I'm more of a story-driven person personally. I like the build-up and I like the suspense when waiting for the next episode and finding out what happens next, but others may want constant action like you do in the games, and unfortunately, like I said at the very start of the video, that's just not what this show is all about. It can ramp up to 100% of the very first episode in the first 15 minutes, but then it slows right back down to 20% after. But then in an instant in the next episode, it can go straight back up to 80%. Like, it fluctuates, and the pacing, I think in my opinion, is very well done. If the TV series was just constant action all the time, like in a game where you jump into a mission and you're constantly in action or combat all the time, it can get boring and very tedious fast. That's why in the games they have a lot of well-rendered cutscenes to give you a break from the action, and that's what they do in TV series, and this is what they're doing very well in the Halo TV series here as well. But guys, let me know down below in the comments what you do think. That's the full spoiler review. I really liked the third episode. I thought it was one of my favourite ones. It's second on the list out of the three that we've had so far. The lack of combat, but again, the addition of the Lekgolo, the reference of the Flood, how the Chief is being more personal, the addition of Cortana, who is in the third episode as well. It's just really good. and I really recommend you guys watching it. If you're on the edge of watching the Halo TV series and don't think you'll like it, go into it with an open mind, and I guarantee you'll get something out of it. You may get some enjoyment too. But I hope you guys did enjoy. Leave a like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you guys are brand new for more videos like this one coming every week to break down the episode. For those that are leaving now, we'll see you all in the next one. Now then, on to the spoilers. The show starts with us in a new location, one that we've not yet been introduced to, named Planet Oban. Now, this planet looks like it was a planet used for dumping trash, plastics, and essentially just sieving through them and things like that. Now, on this planet, it looks as though there was many different kids who were essentially employed to sort through this trash and different things like that, and these kids seem to have been brought up on this planet and are probably given jobs really early in their life. One set of kids start to discuss a book that they found within the trash, saying that beyond the planet Oban, there are more planets out there with grass, sun, and even ones that can be walked freely without the control of anyone bothering them or telling them what they need to do. Then a short time later, one of the guards find the kids not working and slacking off, and they actually go ahead and kill the boy. A short time later, after they killed the boy, they actually see a Covenant dropship onto the planet Oban and multiple elites sent to the surface. The elites see the girl being tortured by the guards before the elite absolutely sends him across the courtyard of Oban. The elite looks at the girl and mutters, "This is what we came for." It turns out this girl was how the new antagonist became a part of the Covenant, and because she is the blessed one, there was something about her which the elites wanted and that they needed to take with them, which is the reason why she's a part of the Covenant now. So very interesting there. She picks up the book from the boy, and that's what she has even to this day. In this scene, she then goes on to speak with the prophet, saying that she won't only bring the keystone back to the Covenant, but also the head of the demon, aka the Master Chief. So that's the very start of the episode. It was a really cool opening as well. Gives us a really nice backstory on Makee. After the intro scene, we then move back onto the planet Reach, where Miranda Keyes is analysing the keystone with General Parangoski. Miranda Keyes is tasked to analyse this object on a separate team to Dr. Halsey, in an attempt to try and phase Halsey out of all operations. And I believe this may be the case because in the previous episode, Halsey went against Parangoski's word to try and essentially pitch the Cortana project to the board within the UNSC. We then see the Cortana model being set up, and the model actually moves and speaks. It was quite weird when I first looked at this, as I never pictured it to be like this in my head, but this is essentially what the clones were like in the actual games and the lore of the game. So yeah, very interesting to say the least, to see it actually working and moving in front of us. Now, Halsey and her clone essentially just start talking to one another, speaking about the Cortana project, with the Halsey clone saying that she bets that it's John that will be the first Spartan to have Cortana integrated within him. John is then let out of his cell, and the Cortana model confirms what I was thinking for the first few episodes, which blew my mind, by the way. I might have been stupid not knowing this, but anyway, Miranda Keyes' mother is Dr. Halsey, meaning that Captain Keyes and Halsey are together, or were together. Is this like actual canon? Is this like an actual thing, or is this just a TV thing? Guys, let me know in the comments down below. I'm just really curious about this. We then cut to a room where John is sat on his own, and a short time after Halsey steps through the door, this is where Cortana would be implemented within the Master Chief itself. Now, so it does work a little bit differently in the TV series on how Cortana is actually implemented within Chief. So typically in games, we're used to the Chief having some form of chip, which he puts into the back of his helmet, which then has Cortana within. However, in the TV series, it works a little bit differently, where Cortana is actually physically injected into the Chief's brain, which is pretty interesting, to be honest. Then this weirdo scientist tries to kiss the Halsey clone. What an absolute melt, but before Halsey almost came in the door and caught him doing it, which I thought was kind of funny. The clone is injected into the eyeball by this machine of some sort, and from then on she's completely still and she can't move. All of her brain is essentially computerized and transferred into a neural link or chip, like we pretty much see in the games, killing the clone in the process. The Chief then goes through a similar procedure, but instead he literally gets a drill going into the back of his head and directly into his brain, which again is a bit mad. The Chief shows absolutely no emotion during this process. If that was anyone else, they would be absolutely going mental right now. The process is then complete, and Halsey then calls for Cortana, but in the form of a fully computerized human. So not like the small hologram we see in the games, this is a life-size Cortana. But the great thing is that it's actually Jen Taylor voicing Cortana, and oh my god, this is so much better. If they would have had the Halsey character voice Cortana, it just wouldn't have hit the same. It just makes me think of what this would have been like if Chief was actually voiced by Steve Downes. Man, imagine. Imagine. Halsey then instructs Cortana to make herself familiar with the data from humanity, until John does finally wake up from his sleep. The Chief and Halsey start talking about Cortana. The Chief was against having Cortana and didn't really see why he needed it in the first place. Halsey then asked the Chief if he wanted to meet her, and his reply was not particularly no. And to be honest, there was actually tension in their first encounter. The Chief didn't even so much look at Cortana when she came into visibility. After their brief introduction, she disappeared, and the Chief says that he doesn't really like it. Halsey reassures him and tells him to trust her, and that he will like her eventually. On to the next scene, we then cut to a UNSC patrol ship when suddenly the ship's alarms start to sound. A slip space anomaly appears at starboard to them, and it's a Covenant corvette with no lights or anything. It essentially looks like it's completely dead in the water. Makee then sent a communication to the UNSC patrol ship, essentially pretending to be a captured human on board, and asks for their assistance to try and save her. And holy shit, we see hunters. It's, oh my god, we don't see them properly, but we kind of see a little bit of them in the Lekgolo, so it's really exciting. Anyway, now we go back onto Reach again, and this is with Chief and Cortana again. Halsey has fitted the Chief with something on his neck and the temple to allow Cortana to find out essentially what's going on when he touches the keystone, and allows Halsey to monitor all of his vitals. John then touches the artifact, and he's getting all of these flashbacks again from his family and his childhood. He's placed into a status by Cortana for her to try and access the artifact, but when she tries to do it, there's nothing that she can find, and the artifact doesn't respond anymore. Nothing happens at all. John was then released from stasis, and he mentions to Halsey that it was different this time, and not like the rest when he touched the artifact. But it then cuts to the next scene. Back to space and back to the UNSC patrol ship. The UNSC deployed a pod to try and rescue Makee, or the captured human above the Covenant ship, and of course Makee and the Lekgolo got on board and went back to the patrol ship. And by the way, the Halo C type drop pod, it just looks awesome, man. I'm so glad they put that sort of design choice in there. Makee steps out onto the UNSC ship and is completely frisked by everyone aboard. The commander is being cautious and then offers her a hand and welcomes her aboard the ship. Makee smiles, and out of nowhere, the Lekgolo come out and just attack the Marines. The Lekgolo take out all of the Marines in the vicinity, and Makee asks the commander where the keystone is and where their home base is. He doesn't tell her anything, and she kills him there and then, with a knife hologram coming out of the end of her finger. I don't really know about this, and I don't really know how, whether it's an attachment or something that's implanted within a finger. I don't really know, but yeah, that threw me off a little bit there. Now we move on to Reach again with the Chief, and he moves into the base of the Silver Team. Then out of nowhere, Cortana deploys herself out of absolutely nowhere. The Chief was doing his best to hide her, but she was not having any of it. She introduced herself to Silver Team, but Chief tries to play it off to Silver Team as a new AI. But Silver Team look like they've had their own opinions on the matter, and they were a bit cautious about it. Now, the Chief is still learning about how to use Cortana, so when he was manually searching for something on his computer, which is essentially trying to find out what his flashbacks were about, she offers to help him try and locate what he's looking for. The Chief opens up about the experiences of touching the artifact to Cortana, explaining what they are and hoping that she might be able to find some form of explanation around it. The Chief is directed towards a planet on the search name called Mamor, and advised that they lost a Spartan there one time called Nora 098. Cortana and Chief then discussed his hormonal regulator, saying that this is the reason he feels nothing in these flashbacks or on any of the missions that he's ever really done. So the Chief decides to try and remove it himself. Cortana tries to warn Halsey, but Halsey tells Cortana to try and become an ally with the Chief rather than just a spy to Halsey, so help him remove this chip. Cortana sides with the Chief and helps him remove it. The Chief successfully removes the implant as well. However, Silver Team were watching him his every move, which very, very interesting, I've got to say. But ever since the Chief's implant was removed, the Chief becomes more curious, distracted by his surroundings, and just more aware of what's going on. This is all new to the Chief. This hormonal implant essentially suppressed anything, any feelings or any affection towards anything. Now without it, he's getting all new feelings come aboard. The chief even hears music properly for the first time so that he could hear things completely differently and he could see things in a different way. The chief then becomes a little bit more curious around the artifact, and without this hormonal implant, how different will it feel? He then tries to get back into where the artifact is, but he's locked out. He commands and requests Cortana to hack the datapad to allow him to get in. Cortana tries to talk him out of it, but the chief touches it again. The chief sees more flashbacks of his past, mostly the keystone in particular. The chief was able to see a second keystone, saying that the thing that he was burying as a kid in these flashbacks might have been the second one, that they're not too familiar with what that is at the moment. Which was, yeah, pretty interesting to find out there might be two. The chief then finds 3 planets, one of which was named Eridanus 2, the planet that the chief actually grew up on. Now, it was mentioned that this planet is currently uninhabited, and do you want to know why that's the case? A plague that was brought in on a key ship destroyed the whole planet and essentially everyone on it. No cure at all. The flood just been teased there? Maybe they'll be back when the chief and Halsey actually go to this planet as well, but more on that later. The chief now realizes that the flashbacks are his memories from when he was a kid, with all of his family and his dog. We then move on to the next scene where we see Makee still aboard the UNSC patrol ship like they were at the beginning, attempting to still get into the ship's computers and communicate back with the prophets. She communicates with the prophets and makes her way to Makee to find out where essentially they took the keystone and where it was. But the UNSC were keeping tabs on these communications at all times, with the UNSC thinking that it's an elite that's talking Sangheili and not a human doing it. Now John and Halsey go to Eridanus 2 to find the second part of this artifact, and boom! Ended the episode there and then. Now you've all heard my thoughts of the video at the beginning and what I think, but again, it's another solid episode for me. I really enjoyed it, and I think the storyline is going in a very good direction. Teasing future factions like the Flood, showing the Lekgolo as well, and the Hunters. I think this could be a really, really interesting 4th and 5th episode, and I'm really looking forward to it. But guys, let me know what you think down below the Halo TV show. Let me know what you thought of this episode as well. Leave a like if you did enjoy, and subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. But guys, speak soon, and take care.